Advancing net zero emissions is a journey and an integral part of a wider systemic shift towards a more sustainable built environment. Up next is a panel discussion where our guest speakers will share their detailed perspective on need for sustainable materials, nurturing net zero environment. I would like to invite Megha Manchanda, Assistant Editor, Digital Content, ETInfra, to moderate the discussion. Over to you, Megha.
Welcome you all. A very good morning to all of you gentlemen. Since it is a discussion, we will be asking questions one by one. The order is not final, but I'll start with Dr. Sarangi. So Dr. Sarangi, my first question to you is, since we are talking about sustainable material, which materials according to you are best suited in building sustainable roads? And can you also elaborate a little more on these materials?
Madam, there is not a single material which we can brand it suitable for all conditions, because the road, whether it is pavement or structure, it has different requirements in different climatic conditions, different terrains, geographical conditions. So it varies from place to place. But what is important is we must focus more on use of waste materials and to go for new materials or technology, so that our dependence upon the traditional or conventional materials that we have been using so far, like soil, sand, aggregate, stone aggregate, and moram, these are minimized. Similarly, the manufactured items like bitumen, cement, steel, which are very heavily quantity used in road construction, that's also minimized. So we are focusing our policy in such a way to frame guidelines, to have enabling provisions in the contract, to create awareness. So there is a multi-pronged approach we have adopted so as to use more and more of these kind of waste materials and new and innovative materials and technology. So if you want me to little elaborate the point, I can tell, see, on a traditional expansion of a 2-lane highway to 4-lane highway, we require roughly 21,500 cubic meter of aggregates. So it is all virgin stone aggregates we are using. So how much damage we are inflicting on the environment? It's not just the requirement. On the reverse side, every year we are producing nearly 100 million tons of construction demolition waste, nearly 4 million tons of waste plastic, nearly 250 million tons of fly ash. Of course, fly ash is no more considered as a waste material. It has found a lot of productive use in different infrastructure sector. But these materials disposal on the one hand is a great problem for us. And on the other hand, we require so much of other kind of materials which is inflicting a lot of damage on our natural resources. It is depleting and also it is affecting our environment. So to strike a balance, we are trying to use more and more of these materials. To name a few, actually in road construction, what we have focused in the recent past is one thing, to use the fly ash, the slag, iron and steel slag, the recycled concrete aggregates, then the waste plastic, and more importantly, recycled asphalt pavement. Earlier, we used to go on providing layers of bitumen mix over the existing pavement, thereby raising the pavement level, causing a lot of discomfort to other road facilities, but not utilizing the remaining usability of the existing pavement. So that recycled asphalt pavement, these are some of the waste materials we are using. Apart from that, coming to the new materials or technologies. We are going for soil stabilization, we are going for cement treated soft base, cement treated base, various application of geosynthetics, even including kaya and jute geosynthetics, to go for accelerated bridge construction, use fiber reinforced concrete, PFRC. So all these and very recently we are also trying to replace the steel reinforcement by composites. Maybe in near future we'll be also having enabling provision for that. So all these are intended to reduce our dependency upon conventional materials to a great extent.
Okay, so now if I can bring in Mr. Chandra and his views. Mr. Chandra, how would you define sustainable material? And when we are talking of building roads, and is it sustainable from duration point of view, economic point of view, or environment point of view? Do we have such examples where it has been used in the past? Where in which country has used it, or which other part of the world has used it?
I think all three. Sustainability in roads is a very broad term, and truly speaking, in road design and construction, it is very difficult to quantify what is truly sustainable. But I can tell that there are three main pillars of sustainability. The one is environmental, second economic, and the third is social. So a material or a technology will be sustainable if it is, number one, environment friendly, means it will not cause pollution, or it will cause very less pollution to the environment. Number two, it is economical as compared to conventional materials. And three, it does not have any negative impact on society. And as Mr. Sarangi was telling, the transportation authorities have now begun developing manuals and sustainability rating system that attempt to quantify sustainable design, sustainable practices, and elements of transport infrastructure. And therefore, what I would say that sustainability in highway construction generally means use of technology which will have low energy consumption, which will produce low emissions and air pollutants, and which will reduce use of virgin materials in construction by making use of industrial waste and recycled materials. And all these objectives must be achieved without compromising on quality of construction and durability of the road. So it is mainly all three. It should be sustainable economically, it should be sustainable environmentally, and durability should also be ensured. And just to give you the idea that one single lane kilometer of road produces enough pollution which is equivalent to around 1,200 tons of CO2. And you can imagine, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways is making almost 30-kilometer roads every day. State governments are also having their programs, and there is a huge investment of maintenance of roads also. So how much CO2 is being produced by road sector? Every road activity, whether it is construction of a new highway or maintenance of the existing ones, it requires huge quantity of hard stone aggregates. And as Mr. Sarangi was telling, I fully agree with him that natural aggregates are depleting at very fast rate, and therefore any material that can replace natural hard stone aggregates will result in sustainable road construction. But again, I would say without compromising on quality and durability of the road.
Okay, so Dr. Pateriya, do you agree with your fellow panelists, or do you have something more to add to it?
I think the views expressed by both the panelists are almost in tune with what I also feel. I would just like to add a couple of smaller things. In addition to what Professor Satish Chandra has defined, now in order to make the road construction more sustainable, reducible dependency on traditional construction materials, efforts are required to identify the technologies for using the local materials. so that we transport the construction materials to minimum distances. Because the efforts in excavation or efforts in producing these construction materials, whether it is aggregate, whether it is sand, whether it is any other kind of material, when it is taken out from any of the mines or from any of the sites and transported to the place of construction, lot of energy is required in transportation. And this also produces CO2. Lot of emissions are there. At the same time, this also damages the existing infrastructure because it is carried in lorries in huge weight. So it damages the existing infrastructure to some extent. So our efforts in rural road sector are to identify the technologies which are making use of the locally available materials without compromising with quality and cost. At the same time, we are also making all-round efforts to make use of the waste materials wherever they are available locally. So most of the thermal power plants like fly ash, most of the other industrial products like steel waste product in the form of steel slag, zinc slag, copper industry material, whatever material is coming out from the industries, our efforts are to make it usable by little bit of treatment at the place itself, by processing it and using it at the same place in the nearby area so that transportation costs are minimized and the energy consumed in transportation is also minimized. Say, for example, we are recommending two technologies which are making use of the naturally produced materials for improving the strength of the natural soil. One is jute, which is produced in eastern parts of our country. In West Bengal, Bihar, we are making use of jute technology for improving the strength of the subgrade soil in construction of roads. Similarly, another material which is produced as a natural byproduct, we can say, from coconut coir. In the entire coastal belt, coconut is produced in huge quantities. And the coir produced from the coconut is now being used in construction of the roads. So we are recommending these technologies in such a manner that the material which is produced in a particular area is used locally. This material is voluminous, but very good material for use in local places, and it is not costly as well. A lot of employment is also getting generated, and it is a kind of, we can say, sustainable material. So these are some of the efforts being made by the Rural Development Ministry for making sustainable roads.
I'll continue asking you, Dr. Pateriya, since we are talking about rural infrastructure, what according to you are the key aspects in maintaining a balance between developing infrastructure in rural areas and ensuring sustainability? You did mention about the steps that you have taken. Can you elaborate those steps a little bit?
We started these efforts somewhere around 2012-13 for using these materials on a large scale. All the waste materials, locally produced materials, by bringing in detailed guidelines for providing assistance to the user. Most of the roads are being constructed by the concerned state governments, and we need to provide adequate guidance to the user so that they can design the roads, they can process these materials, they can prepare the rate analysis, and can construct the roads with quality. So all these efforts are being made. And then we are also focusing on quality of construction by use of these materials. Identification of these materials, the transportation of these materials, with what minimum cost they can be. And not only that, what is the saving in or reduction in the CO2 emissions? Efforts are also being made to minimize that and quantify it. Say, for example, one bigger effort which has been made in association with Central Road Research Institute is in use of cold mix technology in place of hot mix technology. In hot mix technology, we heat the bitumen. We also heat the complete quantity of aggregates being used as a bituminous mix material for paving the roads. Whereas in cold mix technology, we are making use of cold emulsions in place of bitumen. Of course, emulsions are also produced from bitumen itself. But in cold mix technology, we are neither required to heat the bitumen, nor we are required to heat the aggregates. The cold emulsions are mixed with aggregates, and then it is laid in cold condition itself immediately after mixing. So there is a lot of saving in energy. At the same time, the CO2 emissions are also almost negligible. So this is what is we are trying to bring in all these various technologies to minimize the pollution of environment.
Okay, so if I can bring in Mr. Sarangi to this discussion again. According to you, Mr. Sarangi, which are the materials which are best suited in building sustainable roads? Do you have any example? You did mention about fly ash and other waste management products which are there. Apart from those that you've earlier mentioned, any other that you can think of as of now?
I have already mentioned a couple of things, but to list the entire, like we are focusing like soil stabilization. You see, the natural soil that we have all over the country, it's of varying quality, varying, we call it severe, and which determines how much the thickness of pavement courses would be. So, but if you can stabilize it, we can improve its property and we can reduce the pavement thickness. That's one thing we are doing. Then in the granular subbase or base courses, which just come over the subgrade, that's basically earthen layer or a stabilized soil layer, we are trying to use this recycled concrete aggregates. We are trying to use steel aggregate, steel slag and copper slag and such kind of things to reduce its thickness. Simultaneously, even if we are going with natural stone aggregates, we are using treatments like cement-treated subbase or cement-treated base course, which potentially reduces the thickness of bituminous courses that come over the granular base courses. Similarly, in bituminous courses, now we have made it mandatory in the service roads near urban areas to use waste plastic as a mandatory requirement. There has been policy guidelines from ministry, and we are propagating use of modified bitumen. Say, for example, CRMB crumb rubber, that is the waste tires come from the automobile industry. So those tires, when mixed with bitumen, enhance the property of the mix, and simultaneously it causes reduced use of bitumen. So it has double benefits. So we are also propagating use of that in the road construction. And now coming to concrete pavement, in the DLC layer also, that's the underneath layer below the top concrete layer, we are allowing this kind of slag and recycled concrete aggregates. And in the main top concrete layer that we called pavement quality concrete, we are using fly ash, granulated blast furnace slag, silica fume, etc., which helps us in reduced consumption of cement, improving the durability. So these are the materials that we are mainly focusing for the pavement part. As far as structures are concerned, very recently we are giving thrust on ultra high performance fiber reinforced concrete. The normal concrete that we use in our reinforcement concrete structures or prestressed cement concrete structures are in the range of M40, 45, maximum 50. Whereas this kind of concrete can have strength of M150, roughly 3 times more strength than the conventional concrete we have been using. And what it will result in very, very slender sections. So when the sections become very thin, then the load transmission to the substructure, to the foundation also reduces, and our cross-sectional properties of both also reduces, resulting in a lot of savings. Now we have very few players in producing this kind of materials in the country, but the way we are promoting it, and now driven by the market forces, at least 2-3 players have come. We expect more players to come in the near future. I would just like to add, if you permit, what Professor Satish Chandra was telling, that it should be environmentally, economically sustainable, while without compromising the strength and the durability. So that's a very important thing. Whatever we think of looking into the environment, but the basic objective of our road infrastructure, that it should meet the strength, durability, and serviceability criteria that cannot be compromised in the process. To make that, what happens, although we have a whole lot of materials available, we are having enabling guidelines from Ministry of Road Transport and Highways and Indian Roads Congress, but we find still its use in the field is not to that extent. There are variety of reasons. So to remove those mental state of mind and to promote more use, very recently, a year back, we issued policy guidelines where we gave a lot of benefits, a lot of enabling provisions. And now we are also in the process of issuing some more guidelines, so that when the project preparation is being undertaken, for each and every project, these kind of waste materials, new technologies will be evaluated by the consultant, and he will work out the life cycle costing, and whatever comes most beneficial to the project, that will recommend for use.
Sure, sir. We are all eagerly waiting for those guidelines. This brings me to Mr. Chandra again. Though we have been talking about sustainable material and sustainable construction equipment, etc., often the overlooked aspect of sustainable roads is the road design. So in the past analysis, it has been established that a lot of road accidents were caused because of faulty road designs. How do we ensure that it is not repeated in the future? And are we moving in that direction? Have we reached there yet? So what is your assessment of road engineering in the last few years, Mr. Chandra?
Yes, madam, it is true. It is true that many accidents take place due to ill design of roads. And not only ill designs, but even poor maintenance of the roads. The poor maintenance of the road is also responsible for many road crashes in the country. And the ministry data presented in Parliament indicates that a total of 3,564 crashes occurred in the year 2020 due to potholes. Now, in preset to prevent such accidents, we need to make sure that proper design is done. Unfortunately, in India, people don't blame the fault in design for an accident. Our accident recording system is such that drivers or pedestrians are treated as main culprit behind every mishap. And if you see in US, the people can pull the road designing authority to the court if they find that the crash has occurred because of ill design. But in India, our crash recording system is such that it's always driver's fault or pedestrian's fault crossing a road. And this is also evident in the country's data. So there is no awareness among road engineers in India, and that is the reason that we are not able to quantify how many accidents are really occurring because of ill design. And I don't know what narrations are being given by the ministry or related officials regarding whether we are going in the right direction or we have achieved it. But we need to fix such faulty designs first to reduce the number of crashes. And one thing should be understood very clearly, that other safety related implementations may or may not work if design is not properly done.
We all know that sustainability comes at a price. So if I can bring in Dr. Pateriya and ask him that how big is the cost factor in ensuring that sustainability doesn't come at an expensive price?
Really speaking, I'm not much convinced with the statement which you have just now made. The price may or may not be on positive side all the time. As we discussed in the first part of our discussion, if we start making use of the materials at local level, probably it will be cost negative rather than cost positive. Because as of now, I can cite hundreds of examples where we are transporting the aggregate material for more than 400 kilometers. And this transportation of aggregates in heavy trucks is damaging the existing infrastructure. So that is, we can say, putting additional expenditure on reconstruction of that existing infrastructure. So all the time, it may not be that the use of such materials or use of such technologies is always coming at a positive cost or as an extra cost. But yes, sometimes it may be. It depends on the technology. It depends on what kind of machinery we are using. It also depends on the location of the site where the road is being constructed, and from the distances from where we are transporting the material. So all the time it may not be an additional cost. Only thing is the efforts are required in promoting the use of such materials, spreading the knowledge, properly training the manpower, all stakeholders, not only the engineering staff, including the users. In last couple of years, we have come across many such instances where when we started use of any local material, the villagers or the local people, they come in the way and say that in place of thicker bituminous material, these people are making use of this local material and our road may not sustain. So really speaking, it is a kind of the capacity building which is required all across the sector. Even the road users needs to be properly briefed that even though we are making use of the best materials, but they are not at the cost of compromising with the quality.
But Dr. Pateriya, which part of road construction besides roads itself, and which part of the construction cycle can ensure sustainability according to you?
Really speaking, the regular maintenance of the roads. We are as of now, even during the last 1 year, when we were struggling with COVID, even in last 1 year, we have constructed rural roads only under PMGSY with a pace of 115 kilometers per day, because these are single lane roads. So construction does not take much time. 115 kilometers per day, this is new construction, or this is the construction of roads. In addition to this, only under Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, we are also resurfacing, which is a normal practice. After 5 to 7 years, we carry out the resurfacing in order to make the road surface smooth by filling any potholes. So that is another 15 to 20,000 kilometers per year. This requires huge investment. As of now, we are struggling with the regular maintenance of these rural roads. all the rural roads are normally constructed and maintained by the concerned state government. Under Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana also, we are providing funds for construction, but the maintenance is to be carried out by the concerned state government. I have no hesitation in accepting that in spite of our best efforts from the Ministry of Rural Development, and in spite of all kind of assistance to the state governments in construction cost, we are finding a lot of difficulties in its regular maintenance. We also have pride in saying that the maintenance of roads constructed under PMGSY is definitely much better than that of the regular roads constructed under various programs of the state governments. Even then, we are not highly satisfied with the kind of maintenance, because when we carry out regular inspections and regular surveys of maintenance, we find that in some of the states, there are almost 8 to 10% of the roads which are not properly maintained. Whereas in some of the other states where the governance systems are not very strong, we find that around 25% of the roads are not well maintained. Well maintained means whatever specifications have been laid down for regular and yearly maintenance of roads. So if we develop the practice in many other countries of the world, maintenance is really a very regular system. We are also trying to bring in the maintenance as a regular system by putting in various kind of instructions and the systems for regularly maintaining the roads at appropriate time and improving the cycle of huge maintenance or further development of the same road. As I said, that normally after 5 to 6 years, a thin surface of the bituminous layer is laid as a resurfacing for making the road smooth. Even if we are in a position, or if we can make efforts for extending this resurfacing cycle, even if we are successful for making it 1 more year rather than 6 years or 5 years, even if we can extend this cycle to 7 years, it is a huge achievement. But as of now, we are making all-round efforts to extend this cycle, but we have not been very successful till now. In some of the states, yes, there are roads which have not been resurfaced even after 8 years, and their surface is still better. People are regularly using it without much of difficulties. So it also depends on the quality of construction. Both the aspects are there. We are focusing at one end on quality of construction so that this cycle can be extended, and at the other end, all kind of advisories and the governance systems are being brought in place so that the maintenance is regularly carried out and we have a sustainable kind of roads.
Certainly, road maintenance is also as important as road construction in terms of maintaining sustainability. The subject of sustainability is such that we can go on and on talking about it, and probably it will not end, but we will have to end this discussion. So I will ask all of you one by one to make the closing remarks. So I will start with Mr. Satish Chandra, if you could start with the closing remarks.
Yes, sustainability, as I told in the beginning, it is very complex term, particularly in road sector. And many times we feel it is not understood clearly also. Sustainability does not necessarily mean that you are making economical payments. It is basically making a road without putting much pressure on Mother Earth. That is the meaning of sustainability. So it should be sustainable economically, socially, and it should not damage the environment. So all these 3 pillars must be taken care of when we talk about sustainability.
And if you could add something to it, Dr. Pateriya, what would be your closing remarks?
I just now discussed that with proper maintenance and use of the locally available materials, either produced naturally or as waste materials. By processing them at the local level, we can make our road infrastructure more sustainable.
And Ms. Megha, I can add one thing here.
Yes, please.
There are several examples of sustainability in the world, including example in the country also. And a very recently, in March this year only, 1 kilometer public road has been completely made with processed slag, steel slag, which is industrial waste coming out of the steel industry in Surat. And this road is now being used by heavy duty vehicles of multinationals, which are located in this industrial estate of Hazira. And this is, each layer of this road is made from processed steel slag. Mr. Sarangi was telling about use of fly ash. And I can tell that in 1998, the entire approach road to Nizamuddin Bridge over Yamuna River was made using fly ash. But worldwide, probably a 16-mile stretch of highway in Georgia is registered as the fully sustainable first highway in the country, which was developed in 2014 on the concept of sustainability. And this concept is of not just to be less degrading to the environment, but to improve the environment as well as safety, beauty, logistics, and efficiency.
Wonderful. We hope to see that happen someday in India as well.
Sure.
So your last words, Mr. Sarangi.
For any road, pavement or bridge, whatever we are making of our highway infrastructure, the basic objective is it should have strength, it should be serviceable, means that functionality aspect should be properly guarded, and it should be durable. It should last for the design years, satisfactorily performing the facility. So the sustainability has to be added to this all. Sustainability cannot something we can partially ignore any aspect of this and add sustainability. So sustainability, as Professor Chandra was telling, with reduced pressure on modern on Mother Earth, that I fully agree. So this sustainability should be clubbed with these fundamental objectives or requirements of a highway infrastructure, and that is possible when our design, construction, and maintenance practices are improved. And for this improvement, there requires a lot many, you say, capacity building, people who are in charge of this design or construction or maintenance, because we see as of now, particularly in highway construction, we are outsourcing entire thing. So for maintenance, for construction, it's the contractor or concessionaire, and for the design and supervision, there are consultants. So their outlook, their adaptability of these requirements, that's very critical. And if they properly apply their mind to a particular situation and try to find out a solution which brings in the sustainability in long term, that will be welcome for all. We are pursuing that process, but still I feel we have a long time to go, where all of our stakeholders are properly equipped and have proper competency to deliver this.
Certainly, we are all waiting for the time when we actually have sustainable roads in the country. Thank you, gentlemen, for this fruitful discussion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you everyone for delving into the details of the discussion. Certainly a very informative discussion. I hope our audience has many learnings from these sessions. Please share these learnings with your colleagues on social media using the hashtag ETInfraroads. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen.